Hey everyone, this is Thyworm with a Werebear build for Last Epoch. If you're looking for Last Epoch content, subscribe. I create a lot of stuff for that game to help you get the most out of it. Let's start with the build philosophy of the Werebear build. This is the most tanky build I have ever created. It is really tanky with protections up to 80 to 85%, and those can be increased even further by fine-tuning your gear. The build is inspired by druid tanking in World of Warcraft, where players had massive amounts of armor and resistances. The purpose is to make it as far as possible into the arena without dying. I made it to wave 253 in patch 0.7.6, which is pretty decent. The Werebear build relies on investing in defenses, health leech, crit chance and a bit of skill. The Werebear does come with a few challenges we need to deal with, however. For example, how do you stay in Werebear permanently, because as soon as you leave the form you're toast, especially in arena. Also, how do we get this tanky and still do somewhat decent damage? I'll get into this and explain the fundamentals of the build. I've taken the build to level 81 so far, so that is our standing point. Let's look at the passives. There are a few stats to look for, and we are looking for a balance between defenses and some damage output. Because this is a tank build, however, we primarily focus on defenses. Good stats for the build are stats that scale well with the Werebear abilities. Most importantly, attunement, because that provides additional damage, mana reduction of skills and defenses at the same time, as one attunement equals 5 elemental protection. Attunement isn't readily available in our tree, however, so we end up also taking a lot of strength. Health leech is another survival mechanism which just works really well. And finally, we invest in crit chance because we need to reach 100% crit chance, but we will get into that when looking at the skill specializations. So with this in mind, let's look at the passive skill trees. In the Primalist tree, we take 8 out of 8 natural attunement, 8 out of 8 primal strength and 4 out of 6 survival of the pack, because we like the health leech. While leveling, you could pick up damage instead and respec later, that is always an option. I'm just covering for now which passives you want for endgame. Then we take the Druid Mastery. That gives us the Werebear form after all. We take 6 out of 6 Blood Claws for the leech, 8 out of 8 Soul's Attendant for attunement and 2 out of 10 Bark Skin, because we need to spend the points. Those 2 points you can put into Veil Warrior as well, where I now take 4 out of 10, just some damage, and there's nothing else we want in terms of nodes. Then 5 out of 5 Spirit Claws, because flat damage is always something you want to pick up, and 10 flat damage is significant. Next, 5 out of 8 Woodlore, primarily for the vitality to boost our defenses. The poison chance is basically useless. 10 out of 10 Ferocity, because we need that crit chance to reach 100%. 5 out of 5 Forest Fervor, which is a massive DPS increase and always active because we have 100% crit chance. And finally, Defense of the Heart, 5 out of 5, a massive boost to our protections after critting. 125% increase is absolutely insane and must take note. If you find yourself not hitting the crit cap just after a swipe, you can temporarily invest in Soothing Slaughter. I did that while leveling, worked really well, but as soon as you're capped at 100% crit, remove those points and invest somewhere else. After we reach the crit cap, there's not much left for us to do in the Druid passives, so we branch to Beastmaster, particularly because we like Aspect of the Boar, which reduces damage by 15% by default. That is pretty massive. Also, we take a small segue into Aspect of the Shark for some DPS increase. To get here, we take 8 out of 8 Ursine Strength for strength. If you want dodge rating instead, that's okay too, but I felt fine at this point in terms of defenses. Take 1 out of 8 Savagery, because that's needed to get to Ambush. 1 out of 8. Ambush gives Aspect of the Shark, which increases damage by 50%, which is pretty nice. Then take 5 out of 5 Boar Heart to gain Aspect of the Boar for 5 seconds when you are hit by a melee attack. Take 5 out of 5 Porcine Constitution, increasing the effect with yet another 15%, so now we have a 30% damage reduction from Aspect of the Boar. And then to keep the aspect running all the time, take a few points in Primal Strength, so you can also trigger the aspect when you hit enemies. Currently with this setup I have Aspect of the Boar active all the time, which means a constant 30% damage reduction. Pretty sweet. I also took 5 out of 5 Axe and Claw, once again for flat damage, which is really good. Should I level further, I would probably complete the Primal Strength 5 out of 5 and then branch towards Shaman and pick up all the attunement nodes over there. Shamanic Infusion, Earthen Supremacy and Static Slash. This build resolves around 4 skills only. The other one is basically useless, although you can get creative, but we keep it somewhat simple for now. The 4 skills are obviously Werebear, then Swipe, and then Ice Thorns and then Entangling Roots. Swipe works because the right mouse button ability of Werebear is actually swipe, so whatever you do in the swipe tree also works for the Werebear. Ice Thorns can be specced in such a way that it uses automatic self-cast, so that's nice as well. We can also auto-cast Entangling Roots by using Roar. For now, let's look at the setup, starting with Werebear. Here the main challenge is to permanently stay in Werebear. We achieve this by using Innervating Blow, which refunds swipe mana cost on critical strike, and soon you will see how we get to 100% crit chance. Swipe is a swipe, meaning it hits more enemies and thus can refund mana that way because it hits more than one enemy. Using Attunement to reduce mana cost is an option as well. To get this node, we use 4 out of 4 Rip and Tear, which increases crit chance and damage after using Charge. We take 3 out of 3 Pummel for flat damage, which is always good. 5 out of 6 Ursine Heart gives us a permanent protection boost. Take the Wizened Claws to mutate any spell damage you may have into melee damage. Then a lifesaver, Thick Skin. When you use a Roar, that is R by default, you get massive amounts of protections if you're surrounded by enemies. And that is sort of the default status in the arena. Take 2 out of 3 Ironhide, mainly because we want to get to Woodland Bear, which automatically casts Entangling Roots whenever you roar. That's pretty cool. Let's go to Swipe next. Take 3 out of 4 Battle Howl. This is a nice stacking buff for additional damage. I took 2 out of 3 Wild Calling, which are the white spirit wolves you see. It turns your swipe into a cone attack, which is very useful in the arena for damaging enemies far away. It's also very consistent. Take Aspect of the Panther for attack speed, 2 out of 2 Frenzy to increase that buff, and then we go full ham on the crit. So 8 out of 8 Feline Hunter and 4 out of 4 Apex Predator. The Feline Hunter kicks in when you swipe and it enables you to cap your crit chance, provided you use a pole arm with base crit as an implicit and some additional crit as an affix. Then, Entangling Roots. Like I said, this casts on Roar and we spec it in such a way that it provides some utility for our build. 2 out of 4 Reclamation because we want to get to 5 out of 5 Lasting Briar, increasing the duration of the spell. Pick 3 out of 3 Grove Master to increase the AoE. Pick Imbued Sap if you choose to use a companion as a 5th skill like I did with the bear. Mandatory points I feel are Nourish, 5 out of 5, which is really decent healing. Then Bountiful Harvest, mainly to get to Mana Bloom, which restores a lot of mana to you. It's yet another way to keep Werebear form persistently. 4th skill is Ice Thorns, because it is the only skill left that can be self-cast. Go south to Dagger Thorns, 3 out of 4, which we need to get to Bramble Armor, which has a chance to cast Ice Thorns when hit. And then we take one more node, Spell Thorns, 4 out of 4, increasing that chance even further. Now at this point you have 40% chance to cast Ice Thorns when hit. Then we turn Ice Thorns into something useful by picking utility. Take Anemophily in order to get the Thorn Shield, which is a nice flat defense. Bark Shield 5 out of 5 increases the buff, which now provides 120 armor and cold protection, and Eternal Protections 3 out of 3 increases the buff longer, providing 120 armor and cold protection for up to 4 seconds when hit. That's a good deal because it is flat armor and it scales with all the armor increases we have in the build. The last skill is really up to you. I picked a bear and hoped it would stay alive. It does for quite a while, but deep arena runs it will not survive. You can also opt for a wolf for some more offensive capabilities, or maybe even a Spriggan with all that healing. Those die quickly too, however. And that's it for the skills. Let's talk about gear. My gear isn't really optimized at all, but it is pretty decent. I'm Glancing Blow capped by making use of the set affixes for Glancing Blow. Got 4 of those at tier 5 and then you're good to go. In general, the rest of my gear is mostly flat protections because that scales really well with the build. Vitality is also a good stat to get some more flat protections. My chest is still Urzel's Pride, but that's not really a recommendation. Just craft a good rare with some nice defenses on it. A unique that is pretty insane, however, is Chimera's Essence, which in my case boosts my damage by 143%. That is really good. Another must-have is a pole arm. You want a pole arm because it offers crit chance as an implicit, in my case 8%. You then take the added melee crit chance prefix to get that up to 60% base melee critical strike in statistics panel. If you reach that, the 200% from swipe kicks in, and once you swipe you are at 100% crit. To get the most out of your weapon, make sure you get flat damage as the other prefix. Suffixes are less important, but the global stat increase one is super nice. I just went for some protection protections and the minion damage was already on there. In terms of idols, you can be flexible. I mainly took some melee and fizz damage scaling idols here, but there are also very cool idols that increase the effectiveness of aspect of the boar, for example. You should pick some idols that best complete things you are lacking. Also make use of the generic idols here to round out your protections, for example, or to cap glancing blow. A bit about leveling. You want to stay in Permabear as soon as possible, so when leveling I spec'd into Ursic Wisdom. That goes a long way, honestly. Before Werebear I was just a two-hander melee guy swiping enemies. Works pretty well. Always take mana reduction nodes while leveling, it is just pure quality of life. Apart from that, you can basically start speccing into the build that is presented here around level 30. It's pretty smooth sailing from that point onwards. Finally, the playstyle during Endgame. Here's the build in action. Make sure you're in Werebear and don't accidentally press Q, you will die. For single target, Ravage W is a good skill as it buffs your damage even more. Use Charge in Monolith runs a lot and also in the arena because it is a nice gap closer. Roar should be spammed basically because it increases your defenses by so much for every surrounding enemy, and then just swipe basically. Your health leech should keep you alive apart from a few abilities you can't leech your way through, such as the Rhyme Giant Ice Spikes or the Death Screech of the Chimera. But that is mostly it. I went to wave 253 yesterday and that wasn't even super tryharding. I think wave 300 plus is possible with better gear and more cautious playstyle. Another pro tip, if you find yourself struggling in the arena with mana at the start, you can swap back to human form in between arena waves. Regen mana, go back into Werebear and do the next 5 waves. A very viable tactic. For now, I hope you have fun with the build. Thanks for all the support as well, guys. We're officially a Last Epoch channel now, I feel, which is good. I really enjoyed this game and I'm going to dedicate most of the videos towards this game. I hope this guide was useful. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. See you all soon. Bye bye.